Welcome. Today we have a very special talk about the artisan art. And as we know, the art and the culture that connects the world. No matter what happened in the world, the expression of the art, the artisans connects, expresses, shares. There are so many things we can do. And here we are going to talk about a special platform that works as a confluence where you are joined and become a one. Connect the nations. It initiated with the India and Australia, but now it is expanding its boundary. So I'm not, doing the introduction more. Let's jump into that. Let's start that. Kevin Murray, welcome to Harita's Live. And you are the convener coordinator for the Sangam. It's the platform for the Australian and Indian artisans. But as I said, they are expanding. And he is also the editor of Gala magazine. Welcome, Kevin.
Welcome, Harita. It's a pleasure to talk with you today.
Thank you so very much for your time. And the first question, the Sangam, the Hindi name, it explains everything. How did you begin the Sangam? What does this Sangam actually mean?
Well, because I've been involved in crafts around the world, I've been following a lot of projects that involve product development. And we see designers come from the cities, going to the village and looking at the wonderful skills and deciding that they could uplift those villages by developing a product that can sell back in the city. And this has great potential, and it's a good partnership between urban and rural, sometimes north and south, east and west. But I found that it needed a lot of trust because artisans can sometimes feel, maybe in a justified fashion, that this person will charge them very little for their labor, but then put a big price on it and not mention their name, and they feel that they can be exploited. So it seemed that there had to be a conversation about the different interests involved. And in Australia, we have this recent history in politics around what's called the Accord, which is the basis of the prosperity of Australia, which is an agreement between management and workers. So we carried this experience to India because this seemed to be where many designers from Australia and elsewhere come to commission product. But it also is where many people speak English, so the opportunity for a meaningful dialogue is quite high. And we settled on the word Sangam after a lot of consultation because it had this ancient Sanskrit meaning of confluence, but also referenced a gathering of people as well. So it seemed to reflect the ideals, this coming together of the designer and the artisan. And so we had 3 years of fairly intense work in Australia and India. We had workshops where we explored the different interests in the process of developing product, round tables where we get together all the different interest groups, and then a forum to present it to the public for feedback. And we did 3 versions of that, covering places like Ahmedabad, Delhi, Bangalore, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and we developed out of that a code of practice for creative partnerships between designers and artisans. And that's really the heart of the Sangam project.
I can see that's a big group following on the Facebook. I think more than 4,500 at the moment. So I can see that's a big people, the big collaboration between the artisans, the designers, and all the stakeholders who are into this industry, who really want to sustain the art, who really want to promote the art, and they do. So as you said, as you have narrated the past step, but if I talk about the first step when you do it, how was the feeling? How do you think? What was that moment that yes, this is where we want to start, or this is what we want to do for the artisans?
Well, we were beginning with a lot of tentative conversations, but I think the the core moment for me where things really changed was in Delhi, where we had a round series of round tables in the Habitat Centre,
Mhm.
and we divided people up into different animals. We had the elephant table and the kangaroo table, and each was looking at a different aspect. And the one I
Oh.
was at, the elephant table, they were discussing whose name goes onto the product.
Ah.
And we assumed that the artisan would say it should be my name, not the designer's, or my name with the designers, because in the West we assumed that it's almost like a human right to have your name on what you
Yeah.
make, but it so rarely happens. And we had a couple of potters there, Kumar, and they said, No, we don't want our name. Really? They said, We want the name of our village on the product.
Mm.
And this changed things because we saw that even though we thought we were doing something in their interest was not the same as ours. They were not after themselves, they're after the interests of their village and what they were doing. So you could see then that this is really opening up an understanding that was very important. And I think that was a kind of a turning point. And then that gave it a head of steam so we could have these open conversations. We had a wonderful conference at the National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad called Make It New Again, which looked
Mhm.
particularly at the growing e-commerce, as e-commerce was a very important element emerging when we fashioned the code of practice.
So, as you mentioned about the India and the village and the name and the connection, the identity of that region. I come from the region in Gujarat that is called Kutch, and it's very famous internationally for its art, its craft, its artisans, and its everything. The best thing I like about this platform is you deal with the people who are in Kutch. That is where it is considered as a very, very interior part of India. So when you give the platform to this interior artisans to the international level, there must be some challenges coming up. What are the challenges do you see? Because e-commerce is now a famous, but I'm sure when you were working through, many of the artisans were not aware, or even today, they are not very confident to use the e-commerce. That may be one of the challenges. What are the challenges do you see?
Well, Harita, I have to say that I discovered that the Kutchi, the people from Kutch, have centuries of experience in international trade. They are amazingly entrepreneurial, and they would often come up with ideas. Already, they were ahead of the game when it came to things like using WhatsApp.
Mhm.
I think, one of the areas we had a subsequent conference in Baroda
Mhm.
where we looked at storytelling. I think there are such
Okay.
beautiful stories in the Kutchi work, but they're not used to, because it's assumed that fellow Kutchi would understand it. But I think finding the tools to tell those stories adds value
Mhm.
to what they're doing. So it's not just about the price or the quality of the product, or whether it's eco-dyed or chemical dyed, these sorts of things, which are the normal things. But it's also, what does that symbol mean? And why did you choose that particular symbol in that particular scarf or whatever? That was seemed to be where the work. But I'm constantly approached. The Kutchi seem to be really ahead of the game. They're they're on Zoom now, and before they were on Facebook, and so this showed me that usually for a Westerner, an outsider, you go through intermediaries like
Mhm.
anthropologists, contact people in villages, and it was a liberation to think that we don't need those people in between. The Kutchi and others in India come direct to us.
That's very good to know.
Hmm.
Yep. So as you said, you must have experiences of visiting India and the Indian people. If I ask you if any memorable experience of India, if you have that one
Well,
incident that you can't forget
it's
about
hard.
that,
It's
it may be
obviously
fun,
hard
it
to
may be
select
educational.
one, but I think one that was especially uh, meaningful to me was going to Maihar, which is in Madhya Pradesh, in the very
Mhm.
heart of India. And because of the magazine, Garland is named after this very important ornament that's so much part of Indian culture. I
Yes.
was visiting an artist centre there, and uh, they, out of hospitality, uh, invited me up to the temple. And it was a very special day because they were offering garlands. And it turned out that this was the temple that honoured the garland itself, because it was I can't remember the exact, get a little bit confused with Hindu mythology, but it's where one of the flying gods dropped some petals of a flower on the top of this mountain.
Oh,
So
yes.
it's I guess for India, for an outsider, it's the importance of ritual that is otherwise not so big in Western societies, and how rituals can give meaning to things. They make things feel special, which is really what the garland does. Once you drape this string of flowers over an idol or even a person, you make them feel special. And I think that's the language of Indian culture. For me, is very important. It has so much for us in Australia in particular to gain from.
Okay. Kevin, I want to ask you, as you said that the artisans, they share the stories. I believe they share the stories, they share their struggle, they share their inspiration, they share their hopes, they share everything through their art and the culture. During the COVID and before the COVID, when this industrialization and the modern culture is coming, do you think somewhere there is a threat to the traditional art, the handicraft, or the any other craft? It's not only the handicraft, but any kind of craft, traditional crafts. Is
Well,
there a threat?
it's hard to appreciate the depth uh, of problems that has occurred this year with artisans in India. I think
Mm.
many artisans are naturally almost a little ashamed of talking about their problems. I think that's a natural human quality, and it's very hard to get a sense on the ground of what's
Yeah.
going on. I can only assume it. But what we've tried to do is to look at how artisans can repurpose their work towards storytelling. So, with a colleague, Lokesh Guy in Ahmedabad, we are hosting story making sessions
Okay.
because we had been developing a lot more around cultural tourism as a means of connecting with crafts.
Mhm.
And that, of course, didn't happen this year, but we looked at what the essence of that was, and it was for travellers to have a unique experience, often to visit a village and to meet an artisan and to hear a story about their lives. So we're now hosting events where we go into the village and meet the artisan. We have a professional Indian storyteller who can create these wondrous fairy tales around these crafts. So very
Mhm.
appropriate for children or
Okay.
families. And people can, they pay a small amount, about $15 for this experience, but that money goes direct to the artisan.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's hard to think how this could scale up. I mean, it's not the same sort of answer, but I think it could provide an alternative.
And
And
slowly, slowly it can be built.
sorry?
Slowly, slowly it can be built in a better way or in a
I
process
think
or in.
so. Yes, I think so. Because also people during this lockdown are kind of craving contact with other people. They watch so much Netflix and so on, but after a while you feel in a bubble.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's exciting to connect with somebody, particularly in another country and in the same time. And I think in a way that's brought Australia and India closer because we're in a similar time zone,
Yep.
whereas events that are happening in the States or in Europe are often inaccessible to us because they're in the middle of the night. So
Yes.
there is this confluence happening in a way which we should take advantage of. And we've got the next event coming up on the 20th of December. That's
Mm-hmm.
this time with Sitaben, who's a beautiful bead jeweler based in Ahmedabad. And
So
it's called
because of
the
it,
heart of the necklace. You can
yeah.
You can see it in the Sangam group. We've shared the event.
Okay, what I'll do is, Kevin, I'll put that link in the comment box so all the listeners or the viewers they can visit the comment, have the access, and do the needful. Um, Kevin, as you said, the network is expanding, the platform is expanding. What are the other countries coming together, and what is the similarities and the differences basically with the art, or they are all the same?
Well, we've expanded
No.
the platform to include Indonesia,
Mhm.
which is of course a neighbour of Australia. We've had much dialogue in Iran and in Vietnam. Not so much China, but it's really the advantage of India where English is spoken makes it all so much easier. Plus the size of the population and the wondrous quality of the importance that people place in their crafts always seems to make India the dominant culture when it comes to this. But I think the benefits of what we've learned, the learnings of our time, can extend to other countries. And I've been particularly working with Vietnam in
Okay.
recent years because it's really, with the growing tension with China, Vietnam as a Buddhist country is one that, as a communist Buddhist country, is one that many people are turning to for engagement in that particular part of the world. And the Vietnamese are quite outward and interested in rejuvenating local cultures, village cultures, and so on. So we have a lot to learn from them. So I'm hoping there might be a bridge coming between India and Vietnam through Sangam in the future.
Wow, that's lovely. As you said, becoming the bridge, I would like to share how I got introduced to the Sangam platform. There was a girl from the Denmark. She was in Australia for something. She was inspired to come to Kutch, where she met my mother. She became a good friend of mine, and now she is in Iran. So you see, the one platform is connecting the different parts and the different country of the world, and that's the beauty of that. So the question is how somebody can get in touch or how they can be the participant. Is there they can be the volunteer, or what is the sort of thing they can get active with this platform?
Well, the dominant forum for it, as you know, is our Facebook group, which has a huge number of people. And the best way of being involved is to contribute, to share your stories on that group, raising
Mhm.
issues that you think people need to care about, commenting on people's posts. Any activity like that is always welcome. There is, you'll see a way of signing up to the code, and I think that underlies the group because it's based on a common set of values about respect,
Mhm.
mutual respect between the artisan and designer, between the thinking and the making. And that is important to uphold. And then we often share stories from Garland magazine in Sangam. So the magazine has many interesting Indian stories, and we're quite interested in those who might like to join our team of story gatherers who can be
Oh,
with an eye for the tale that reveals something wondrous and inspiring about what's made in our world.
okay, that's so good. So I'll share the link of the group again in the comment box. So you can go there, join the group, see the amazing activities happens. Time and the again you can find the updates. That's a lots of thing happening there with the different people, and it's really interesting. Before we end, Kevin, I want to ask you to top three things. What can improve the relationship between the artisans across the world or across the countries you are working on via this platform? What are these essential things it can be working? And can we see in the future that, for example, a bag is made with half of the Indian and half of the Indonesian culture or the art or stories or the combination of that kind of thing?
Well, uh, again, something else that we're developing, which really is uh, for us, the top priority is a knowledge house. So
Mhm.
somewhere are artisans who are practicing a skill which has traditional value, which
Mm-hmm.
contributes to our understanding of civilization, where they can register that they know this skill, knowing
Okay.
the skill being knowing how to do it, not just something you can write a book about, but sharing that so that people feel that these crafts are not just little businesses, people trying to make money, but they're really
Mhm.
our heirloom. They're something we can pass on to the future, which is very important. But I think generally it's having confidence in your work, to be able to convey that confidence in your work by telling the story behind it through so many opportunities in social media now to do that, and connecting with people, looking for common themes that can connect you up with other people is and the hashtag in our era is also something that is important. But the final thing is just to realize that not everybody has to be inventing something new, that
Yep.
something well made, something that's proven the test of time, something that particularly meets the needs of everyday life. Uh, this is something people will appreciate, uh, and certainly that's something we want to encourage people to look for, and not to be trying to chase fashion all the time, but to really what we call the craft classic. You know, that item we keep for a long time and becomes part of our life.
I think my dress can be the combination of the craft and the fashion together. That's what
Yeah,
I think Sangam is trying to do.
beautiful. Yes, beautiful
Okay.
color.
Thank you so very much. Kevin, before we end, any end note would you like to share?
Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I think India and Australia are getting closer together. The Indian Ocean is getting smaller, and we're looking forward next year. We have a big event in Perth, the Indian Ocean Craft Triennial in September. So keep an eye on that. And we're also our first issue of Garland next year is around the theme of nature, the learnings of how we can live with nature, and there's a lot to learn in Indian culture about that and share similar concerns about the environment and so on, which is something that connects us all together. So keep that on the horizon.
That's so lovely. Thank you so much, Kevin, for your time. I really appreciate, and I look forward to have maybe more conversation about the events coming up or any development happening on the Sangam platform.
The Kachis will be keeping us busy, I'm sure.
We'll be keep in touch and we'll share many more stories, many more work, many more artisans, story, learning, everything. And please visit the comments. I am sharing the links about the Sangam group where you can go, where you can see the work. You can join if you want, or if you know somebody who can be interested to join this network, please share this link with them. Once again, thank you so much and really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.